Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a lovely day. And even if you're not, that, awesome that you came to yoga because hopefully that will help. I thought today what we would work on is a little bit of back strengthening. Now, yoga gets a bad rap for um, doing a lot of pushing, right? And not as much back strengthening, but there are things that we can do to strengthen the back within yoga without necessarily having to do like pull ups because then it's not really yoga, which is fine. But we don't have to do that. Um, this is not going to be the best class for you if you are pregnant and you can't lie down on your front, or if you're super uncomfortable lying down on your front. I will give lots of alternatives along the way, but a lot of this will require comfort being prone. Now, there are different ways that you can set up. Like, if you wanted to, you could get some like sofa cushions and put one under your chest and one under your thighs to leave space for your belly when we're on our bellies. So that's one way that you could do that if you're particularly uncomfortable on your front. Or, right, sometimes I was about to say ladies, but anyone can be uncomfortable in the chest area as well. Lying down on the floor, we won't be there for long, but it will be sort of a major part of the back strengthening. So just a little advisement. We're going to start lying down on our backs though. So if you're comfortable there, always, as always, you can start seated if you prefer. And then depending on how your day has been, maybe you feel ready to be still right away, or maybe you need to get some wiggles out. Maybe like me, you just had a cup of coffee and your mind and body are racing a little bit, and that's okay too. Once you've found a position that feels good for you, though, for a few breaths, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then continue breathing here, however feels best for you, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing. If it feels really open and spacious, then great. Maybe you notice some sticky or choppy spots along the way. If so, great too. But if you'd like to, you might gently try to lengthen through those parts just to smooth the breath out a little bit more. There's no need to force a deeper breath. As much as possible, try to breathe naturally. Notice the movement in your body with every breath, whether it's the gentle rise and fall of your belly or chest, or the widening of your rib cage on the earth. Maybe you notice movement through the shoulders and arms, maybe the hips and legs. Maybe as you start to notice movement elsewhere in the body aside from the torso, you notice your pulse as well. Or the movement of your clothing on the skin, a gentle touch of the air. All of these observations that we can make that keep our minds focused and still and present. Last couple breaths here. When you're ready, start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Wiggle of your fingertips or toes. A little rock of the head from side to side, or maybe a full body morning stretch. Until you feel ready to draw your knees in towards your chest and maybe take a little rock from side to side here. Your knees could be together, they could be wide. And then shake anything out that needs to be shaken out. And then when you're ready to bring your feet to the floor, keeping your knees bent. So setting up for a bridge pose, you want your heels close enough into your bum that you can just tickle your heels with your fingertips as you reach around. Feet not too wide, not too narrow, so hip distance apart and parallel-ish. It's hard to tell without a mirror on the ceiling. Maybe you have one. That's cool. A little loop of the shoulder blades toward each other. Arms could be extended beside you, either palms flat, or maybe you bend your elbows and take sort of like robot arms. And then pressing your heels into the floor as you inhale, lift the pelvis and spine up and away. And as you exhale, slowly lower back down. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. Slowly starting to warm up the back line of the body. Now the back isn't doing a ton of work here, although it is assisting the hips with the extension, or I suppose hyperextension of the spine, depending on how high you lift up. Next time you inhale, lift up, pause at the top. Now it could be as low or as high as feels good for you today. Maybe you walk onto the outside edge of the shoulders and clasp your hands behind your back, or bend your elbows, use your hands to lift your hips up a little bit higher. Keep hugging your legs toward each other though. So notice if the knees are winging out to the side, can you think almost of separating the heels? Now they're not going to move, but that will draw the thighs back into neutral. You might try pressing the feet away from you or drawing them back toward you and seeing which one feels like a better activation for you today, or maybe you just find a spot in between the two. Squeeze your bum a little bit more. Last 2 breaths here. And if you're up on your shoulders, come down, exhale slowly, lower back down to the earth. Pause for a couple breaths in stillness if you can at the bottom. There's a long time to be in a back bend, essentially. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Little rock from side to side. And then shake out your legs. Some of you might feel great rocking and rolling up and down your spine here. Shoulder blades to sit bones. Shoulder blades to sit bones. Maybe you fall over. That's fun. Maybe it feels better to roll over and press yourself up to hands and knees. Either way, let's meet there when you're ready. I'm just going to tuck my top in. All right, so knees underneath hips, toes can be tucked or untucked, and a little draw of belly button to spine. A little gentle press of the floor away from you here. And then as you inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, broaden through the collarbones, dipping into cow. And as you exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. Really press the floor away into cat. And then inhale into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. If there's any other natural movement that would feel good here, feel free to add on. Maybe a little wag of the tail from side to side, big barrel rolls through the chest and shoulders. If your low back is feeling tight, when you round through the spine, maybe think of sending your hips further back toward your heels to really get into the low back. Moving however you need to move. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly come back to center. Now we're going to do a little bit of single knee balancing here. So if you'd like to pad underneath your knees, then go ahead and bring your chip foam block or something like that underneath your left knee. And then from here, step your right leg back behind you, toes to the floor. Squeeze the bum a little bit, press the floor away a little bit more here with your hands. Now you might bring your right hand in a little bit more into the center, or maybe you keep it wide. And then start to reach your left arm away from you, thumb to the sky, palm to the right. Now, keeping the back of your neck long, make sure that you can, as long as it's pain-free, bring that left arm up and out of your peripheral vision. I don't mean sideways, but I mean up. So starting to work the back a little bit. Now, some of you might stay here. Some of you might start to de-weight the right leg from the floor. Now think of reaching the heel and the left fingertips in opposite directions from each other. Make sure that the heel isn't lifted so high that you have to dip into the lower back. So press your lower ribs up to the sky. Keep working against gravity here. This is now working the back line of your body in an isometric position, which means the muscles aren't lengthening or contracting. They're staying, in theory, still, although there's a lot of wobbling, a lot of shaking here. One more breath. And then exhale, release everything down to the floor. A little wiggle or shake. Awesome work. Okay, so let's switch the padding over to the right side and do all of that on the opposite side. Find that nice tabletop position and then step your left leg back, toes to the floor. So that left leg's really active, right? It's not loosey-goosey. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the top of the thigh. Little drop, belly button to spine. Now here, start to reach the right arm forward and up, thumb to the sky, palm to the left. Now it's going to want to start to drift down, right? So lift it up against gravity, up and out of the peripheral vision maybe. And that doesn't mean dipping the head down, right? Keep your head in neutral or your neck. Option to stay here. You're still doing a lot of work, or maybe you lift the left leg as well. Reach the heel back and away. Squeeze the top of the thigh so that lifted leg is really active. My arm's starting to drift down, so I'm going to really think of reaching it up and back out of the peripheral vision. Fingertips reaching forward, thumb reaching up to the sky. And keep pressing the floor away from you. Keep pressing the lower ribs up to the sky. Surprisingly challenging to talk here. Last couple breaths. And then exhale, lower it all down. Oh, little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And let's rest for a couple breaths in child's pose if that suits you, whether the knees are wide or together. You might stack your hands underneath your forehead to give yourself a little bit more space wherever you need to go. A few breaths here. And then slowly press yourself up and back to hands and knees. And depending on where you are on your mat, you might need to walk your hands forward or just shuffle your knees back a little bit. And on your inhale, shift your weight forward into your plank position, either from your knees or from your toes. Just for a couple breaths. So here's that pushing position, but you're still using the back line of the body for stability here. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs, And then exhale, come all the way down to the earth. All right, little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Once you get here, untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tail onto the back wall. Feel your belly button engage toward your spine. And as you inhale, lift the heart forward and up, baby cobra. And exhale, lower back down. If you're uncomfortable on your belly, this is where you might do this movement from hands and knees. So it's like cat and cow, or you could do it from standing, getting these back extensions. And then exhale, come all the way down. So starting off really simple. Couple deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. Okay, and then come back to center. Get all the activations going. So press the tops of the feet into the earth, tailbone to the back wall, shoulder blades on your back. Inhale, lift up, baby cobra. This time let the hands hover as you lift. And exhale, lower back down. Inhale to lift. Exhale, lower. Keep the back of the neck long here. So it's almost as if you've got an orange between your chin and your chest. I'm not sure why you would do that, but at least it's keeping the back of the neck long. Last two more. And then exhale all the way down, opposite cheek to the earth to balance out your neck. All right, come back to center. Get all the activations going through the lower body. This time, interlace your fingers and your hands behind your head. So not behind your neck, but behind your heads. So ideally, your forehead is flat on the earth right now. With all those activations in the legs going, think of lifting the elbows away from the floor and squeeze the shoulder blades toward each other. Now, you're not going to press your head into the floor. You're just using the added weight of your hands here on the back of the head. So inhale, lift up. Now, you're not going to be lifting up quite so high. Keep lifting the elbows back and up. And then exhale, lower back down. So a couple of these. What this does, not only does it add weight, making it more challenging, but it also keeps the back of your neck long so that you're not lifting your chin. Keep squeezing the elbows toward each other. Sorry, the shoulder blades. Couple more of these. Squeeze the bum. Last one. And then exhale, come all the way down. Opposite cheek to the floor again. Bend your knees. Take a little windshield wiper of the legs. Just to really release through the hips and the low back. And then bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Press yourself up to hands and knees. Little wiggle, shake, or cat and cow. We'll come back to that in a while. From here, step forward into your standing forward fold. Now, I want your knees to be nicely bent so that the low back isn't generating any tension here. Maybe you rest your elbows on your knees or thighs. Maybe you clasp opposite elbows with hands. All right, with the knees bent, what we're doing is we're using gravity a little bit more to get into the backs of the legs. All right, low back tightness, not necessarily strength, but low back tightness is compounded by tight hamstrings. So a little bit more here, just to release. And then release your hands with fingertips to your shins or earth or blocks. Inhale, little partway lift. Belly button to spine, micro bend the knees. So don't press the knees back as you lift up here. Exhale, let it all go. Forward fold. Two more. And then bend your knees. Head heavy, arms heavy. Slowly start to roll up to standing. one vertebra at a time, slowly as you need to go. And it doesn't feel like much, but this is working the back line of the body. A couple loops of the shoulders, up, back, and down. Little wiggle, noodle, or release. And I say it doesn't feel like much, but it can feel like a lot. So sorry if that sounded a bit judgmental or not what your experience is. So find a nice, just gentle stance. And we're just going to get in to the back a little bit more, a little bit of rounding, less work at the moment. So, yeah, sorry. I completely lost my train of thought. On your inhale, sit into chair pose. So hips down and back. And then I want you to grab your right wrist and reach over to the left. Tuck the tailbone under. You can shift around a little bit, but just releasing a little bit through the lats, multifidus, maybe even QL. And then inhale back to center, straighten the legs if you wish. Come back into that chair pose and then drag the left wrist across and over to the right. And then inhale, come back to center. Shake everything out a little bit more. And I'm going to turn to the side for you. So stance hip width apart. Hug the legs toward each other. Little micro bend in those knees. Tailbone to the earth, belly bent to spine, shoulder blades on your back. Now, hands could just be at your side, or maybe you bring your palms to your pelvis, your sacrum. Wrap the elbows, the shoulder blades toward each other. Already here, we're getting quite a bit of isometric contraction through the upper back in particular. If you'd like a little bit more, then bend the knees, press the hips forward, and think of lifting your heart. You might stay here. You might go into more of a back extension. Now, this might not feel as challenging as it did on the earth, and that's because you're not working against gravity here, but you're still using the muscles. And then inhale, come back to center, release the arms, shake them out a little bit. And then inhale, reach your arms up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth. Forward fold. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it all go. Bend your knees, plant your hands, step back to your plank, either from your toes or from your knees. And then as you exhale, come all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side once you get there. Now, make sure that you have space clear in front of you and out to the sides. I might shift on a little bit of an angle so that I don't end up whacking my bookshelf with my arms. So this is much for me as it is for you. All right, so come down to your normal sort of neutral starting position. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Tailbone to the back wall, belly button to spine. And then with your thumbs facing, our palms facing down here. Yeah, palms facing down. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other. Lift the arms up off the earth. You're going to start to draw your arms in circles around back behind you till the palms face up at the top. And then around and back, either palms facing down or palms facing each other for a little bit more work. And then circle the arms out to the side and around to the back, palms face up when you reach your bum, and then rotating the arms, bring them back. Palms facing each other. Keep doing this for a few more breaths. Keep looping the shoulder blades toward each other. It's quite challenging. If you'd like even more, come up into a minuscule baby cobra. Back the neck long. Keep pressing the tops of the legs into the floor. Or the tops of the feet, rather. Last couple of breaths here. Last full rep. And then as you come to the top, release down to the earth. little wiggle of the hips from side to side, or deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. All right, one last back exercise before we set up for the rest. So come back to neutral, back to center for the last time. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, tail onto the back wall, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on the back. Maybe you just lift up into baby cobra, or maybe we come back to the interlacing of the hands behind the head. Loop the shoulder blades toward each other, lift the elbows. Inhale to lift, and exhale to lower. Couple more. If the opposite breathing pattern works better for you, exhaling to lift and inhaling to lower, do whatever you need to do. Two more reps. And then once you're down, bring one cheek to the earth. Deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side. And then roll over to your back. Or press yourself up to hands and knees and roll over, apparently, which is what I decided to do. Okay, once you're on your back, hug your knees in toward your chest as tightly as feels comfortable for you. And let's get that little bit of extra flexion through the spine. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you interlace your hands over top of the shins, sort of deepening that compression, but also helping to get a little bit more rounding through the spine. Maybe you gently curl your nose toward your knees. Last option is to press the shins up to the sky so that you're rounding through the spine even more. And then exhale. Lower back down. Take your knees wide now, up toward your shoulders or armpits. You could stay here, rocking a little bit from side to side or just still. Or maybe you kick your feet up to the sky for happy baby. You could grab the backs of the thighs somewhere along your legs, your ankles, or your feet. You can maybe take a little rock from side to side. Maybe you're still. Do whatever you need for your body. And if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free. Maybe a quick twist from side to side. You can always pause the video or just let it run out. Otherwise, think about where you would like to go for your rest. Could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side, or child's pose might feel really good, or even legs up the wall, like a Viparita Karani. And there's certainly no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose, exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. It's tempting to want to hold on to it after half an hour of controlling the breath. As much as possible, return to your natural breath. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw or shoulders after all that work. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And take a moment here to thank yourself for coming to the mat, for giving yourself this time to to move and to breathe, for your wonderful body for moving and breathing for you. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.